What's holding you back from starting or growing your business into what it can be? Well, if you're listening to this, it's not a lack of information. What you're about to hear is all you need to get motivated and start making waves. Do It for a Living podcast details the journey of today's true players in their own words. Find out how they broke out so you can too. The time is now. The time is always now.
Welcome back to another episode of Do It for a Living. I'm Kevin with my shop assist, and I wanted to introduce Chris Riggs of Speed by Design. They are a manufacturer and a distributor for primarily GTR parts, but he does have some other cars that he supports. And he also has gotten himself into manufacturing watches, which we'll talk about a little bit as well. So Chris, how are you doing today?
I'm doing well, man. I appreciate the opportunity.
Cool. Yeah. You and I had talked at the Texas 2K event several years ago when we were actually still doing podcasts regularly. And we had talked about doing this then. And then I had just dropped the ball on continuing podcasts for a while. And now we're back at it. And I reached out to you and you were more than willing to do this. So I thank you for taking the time to do this with us.
Well, I appreciate you considering us for sure.
Tell us about yourself, your background in cars, education, training, any of that sort of thing, kind of leading us up to, starting Speed by Design.
So, I've always been, what's funny, because my dad probably couldn't change his oil if he had to, but, I grew up just loving cars, man. I mean, my initials spell car, so I think it's kind of, I don't know, maybe I was meant for it, I don't know, but, I've always been a car guy, and, in college, in 2001, I started a small speed shop in Searcy, Arkansas, which is a small town, and we did a lot of .com e-commerce products on body kits, and we did a lot of stuff for the Nissan 240SX. So, which is kind of an interesting story. I don't recommend this to anybody else, but when I went to college my freshman year, my parents gave me a credit card. It had about a $7,000 limit on it. And so I called this company in California. This was before all the Fast and the Furious stuff, really kind of came on strong. And I was wanting to sell body kits.
Okay.
And I was 18 at the time. So I called up this company in California that was kind of an up and coming, body kit company. And I said, look, do you have a distributor in Arkansas? And I'll never forget because the guy laughed so hard. He had to pause and just think about what I just said. Arkansas? He's like, is there a market in Arkansas? I said, yeah, there is. He was like, really? He goes, well, we don't have a distributor. I said, well, I would love to be one. And he goes, well, there is a buy-in. Well, I had no money. I'm a broke 18-year-old, freshman living in a dorm room. And so I said, well, how much is the buy-in? And he goes, well, it's $10,000. And man, my heart sank. I mean, I don't have, $200, in my bank account. So I said, well, that's not a problem. I said, but here's the thing. I was like, you don't know me. I don't know you. I said, I would really kind of prefer to maybe start a little bit smaller. I said, let me call you back. So I thought for a second, and I realized that when I had left home, my parents had given me a credit card for emergency purposes only. So I called Visa or whoever the card issuer was, and I said, look, can you tell me what the limit is? And they said, well, it's $7,000. So I thought about it for a second. I called the guy back up, and I said, well, hey, I know it's been a few days since we last talked. He goes, oh, I haven't forgot the guy in Arkansas. I said, oh, I bet you haven't. It's going to be a good business pickup for you. So I said, well, look, I've been thinking about it. I said, I can't do 10,000. How about 7,000? Could we do a buy-in, first order $7,000? He says, well, I'll tell you what, yes, I'll do it because I don't have a distributor in Arkansas. I said, well, here, I'm going to tell you something, and it's going to sound a little unorthodox, but what I'd like you to do is I just want you to run the credit card for $7,000. And then I'm going to call you back in a couple days, and I'll tell you what I want to order. And he kind of paused for a second. He goes, well, you don't have anything you want to order today? I said, well, not now, but I will in a few days. He goes, okay, whatever. So I gave him my credit card, and he ran it for $7,000. And I basically did two things. So I called my roommate, and I said, look, we got a little bit of a situation, need some help. Y'all handle that. So I think we ordered pizza that night, and we stayed up through the night, and we went on to eBay. This is 2001, mind you. We went on to eBay and we listed every single item that he had online. Every single item that he made, which was like, I don't know, 100 and something items. Listed them on eBay. We were at that time. His products were not on eBay.
Okay.
So so I figured I had 30 days before my parents were going to find out what I had done.
Sure.
And crucify me, right? But I also thought I've got 30 days to pay this charge back off, or they won't notice it, right? As long as it's at zero, So anyway, we did, and I swear this is a true story. We had a 40% margin. It was 40% at that time. And the first month on eBay, we did 30-something thousand in revenue.
Okay.
And I netted like 12 grand. Okay. But I was stupid. I was 18 and I wasn't thinking twice. And I wasn't used to using a credit card. So I forgot to pay down the credit card.
Sure.
I had the money in a little business account that I'd set up at a local bank. So my mom calls me and she goes, there's a $7,000 charge on your credit card. I was like, crap. I said, Mom, let me explain what I've done. And I told her, and she just paused, and she's like, this is the dumbest, smartest thing I've ever heard. She goes, all I can tell you is you better get this credit card paid off before your dad sees it. So that is how Underground Motorsports was opened in 2001. And I ran that business from 2001 until 2004 when I graduated, and my brother took it over, and then he ran it all the way through college.
Okay.
So we were kind of a e-com company, and I put myself and my wife through college with that.
Fantastic.
Yeah, so it worked out well. So that was kind of my entry into the automotive world, and then I got out in 2004, and I went into medical sales. And I worked in medicine from up through 2012.
Is that what your degree was in?
I was a sales major in college.
Okay.
Professional sales. I've always loved medicine. I just like helping people. Medicine's always been a passion for me, but I was more interested in the business side of it.
Okay.
So I worked in medical sales and was pretty successful as a rep and as a distributor. And in 2012, the company that I worked for was purchased by Johnson & Johnson. And when we got bought by J&J, they came in and they said, look, we're going to make you this really great deal. We're going, and let me back up and say that this job was 100% commission. There was no base salary.
Okay.
Medical sales can be extremely lucrative. It's not uncommon to find guys making $500,000, $600,000, $700,000, maybe even more. So, but it's a by the same token, you can make no money if you don't sell. So It's feast or famine in that business, straight commission. So I had done very well. I had a large territory, and I was in about 800 reps around the world. I was top 10 one year. So I had been successful in medicine. And so they came in and they said, look, we're going to make you this great deal. So in a year, we're going to cut your territory in half, but we're going to give you a year to train your replacement. And I kind of laughed, kind of thought about it. And I was like, I don't know, this is a great deal for me. So I ended up, I had a competitor that contacted me and said, look, we're going to make you an extremely lucrative offer. We want you to never come back. And I literally had to pause on the phone, and I'm like, well, what do you mean? He goes, like, literally never come back. I said, so you're wanting to basically buy me out? And he goes, well, we want you to never show back up. Because what had happened was I had about a 92, 93% market penetration in Oklahoma City Metro. And we had a lot of basically dual source or sole source contracts. And they really had no way to get into these hospitals unless I was gone.
Okay.
Where the doctors would be willing to kind of reevaluate the relationships. So effectively, they wanted me just out of town. And I had a non-compete. So I didn't want to go back into these hospitals and then, face a lawsuit. So they did. So I ended up getting a pretty large amount of money to never go back. And, in their words, really it was 2 years. But, I had intentions, I'm not going to lie, I had intentions of going back when the non-compete period from the buyout was over, which was 2 years. But when I started, Speed by Design in 2012, the plan was just 2 years, to be quite honest with you. My aspirations at the time weren't really bigger than that. I never, if you would have told me today that Speed by Design would do what it has done, I would have laughed at you, because that wasn't why this business was started. I had a non-compete period. I had to sit out for 2 years as part of the buyout deal. And I needed something to do in the near term. So, I remember telling my wife, I said, look, I'm gonna go, back into the automotive industry. And I remember, she was like, what? Why would you do that? Because money was good. The income of medicine was really good, really good. And, my own parents, my dad literally said to me, well, great, Chris is going to go be a mechanic again. Kind of like, it was very condescending, even internally in the house, because there was a lot of questioning of, was this a good move? But, in my mind, I thought, well, I've got 2 years to try to make it work. And if it works out, great. If it doesn't work out, I'll just go back into medicine. So the first 2 years of the business, pressure in some ways was kind of low for me, because we had made a good amount of money. We had good savings, and I knew I just had to ride things for 2 years and I could go back in. But that never happened, because the company ended up, growing substantially. And I'm grateful for that, because quality of life in medicine is really quite poor. I was working 7 days a week in trauma.
Uh-huh.
So, you're working Christmas, you're working New Year's, basically anytime the drunks are on the road, you're dealing with car crashes and, a lot of broken people. So, I didn't make a lot of family events. If I go back and I look at my 20s,
Uh-huh.
I missed a lot of my 20s. I missed a lot of, life opportunities. I made a lot of money, but I gave up a lot for that money.
Sure. You sold your time, basically, right?
I sold my time.
Mhm.
And, a lot of people from the outside in would look at me and say, well, how can this guy complain? Because, he's making 5 to 10 times what I make. He should be happy. He's got cars, he's got a nice house, like he's got all these material things. But really, it's funny. When I was the most, I don't know how to say this. When I was the wealthiest, I was probably the most sad I've ever been.
Unhappy? Yeah.
Unhappy, yeah. It just, the money aspect, a lot of people would look at me and say, well, I don't see how you could be unhappy. You have all these material things. But what I missed was time. I'd get on Facebook and I would see friends that were out, doing God knows whatever, going to music festivals. I couldn't do that because I had to be within 30 minutes of a hospital.
Gotcha.
So, I traded money for time.
It really boils down to the sales aspect of that is not a scalable business, right? You had to be present to make the money, whereas it's not like a mailbox sort of thing where you can just post up a bunch of body kits on eBay and then just send the orders and have them all drop shipped or whatever, right?
Yeah, and to tell you how dire it was, the final straw for me, and this all happened within 30 days of first finding out our company was being sold, was my mother's father, my grandfather on my mom's side, passed away. Now, my grandmother, or sorry, my grandfather was a mechanic, was a car guy.
Mm-hmm.
And I think a lot of my passion for cars came from him. He was a defining guy in my life. And when he passed away, I literally could not get time off to go to the funeral. And I resent that to this day.
Okay.
I regret that. I never made it to the funeral because I could not get time off. We were so short-staffed as a company. And so, I think back on it, I think about the money, and to me, it wasn't worth it. And so I think today with Speed by Design, I'm grateful for what the business has become. But I've done some things intentionally to ensure that I never get back in that situation. And, I've had opportunities to scale this business substantially larger than it even is today. And I've intentionally chose to keep it at a certain size where I can still have quality of life because I'm a father.
Uh-huh.
I've got 2 young kids. I've got an 18-month-old little boy. I've got a soon-to-be 7-year-old son this month. And so, money is great. I think I've made a lot of money, but I can tell you that it didn't necessarily buy happiness.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah, and I'm actually kind of in the same boat with the shop here, right? Like, it's just me and Richard, and he's part-time and I'm full-time. And I deliberately do not try to grow the business anymore because it's not a scalable business. I actually do have I don't make quite as much money as I would like because it's limited by the hours I can put into it. but I don't want to put all that time into it because I have kids as well, and I would rather on a Saturday go watch my daughter dance or go mountain biking with my other daughter, like do that kind of stuff on the weekend instead of staying at the shop and working on cars. So as the owner, I'm allowed to, do whatever I want, work on the cars whenever I want. So I try to prioritize my family over the shop, and that's kind of sounds like what you've gotten yourself into now too. You're able to do that, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's, we're 8 years into this company, so it was a very different animal. The first 2 or 3 years, you're just grinding it out. You're trying to survive. So, but the good news is there is light at the end of the tunnel, and I think that the longer you're in business, the easier the business to an extent can become.
Mm-hmm.
Not to say you don't face challenges, but the larger you grow, the more successful you get, the more you can pawn off some of these tedious tasks. Uh-huh. And you can hopefully better manage your time because, like I said, I think that's probably one of the main takeaways. I know there's a lot of probably young businesses that are listening to this podcast, up and coming companies. And, I think money is great, but money pays for opportunity, but don't let money define you. I think that's kind of the main takeaway that I have learned in my own life. Uh-huh. I am in a much, much better place now than I was in medicine, where I made a ridiculous amount of money that in Oklahoma, you couldn't even spend it. And you could just invest it. There's nothing to do here. I mean, I hate to say it, to even need to make that level of money. And, and I can tell you that was literally the most miserable time of my life, when for most people, they would think that would be the happiest time.
Now, there is a silver lining to making that money, even though you sold all the time to it. If you saved it and invested it properly, you're set up to not have to be desperate moving forward, right?
100%. And I'm grateful. And I'll tell you that if I had not done that and put a lot of that money back, I've always been a saver and I've always been very thrifty. So had I not done that, this business would not be where it is today because we had very good startup capital that most young businesses don't have.
Gotcha.
I didn't have to go out and take a lot of loans and, borrow money from family.
Right.
Uh-huh. I already had a good cash account walking into this. And so it made the startup process a lot easier.
Right. Okay, so being in Oklahoma, how has that played a role in Speed by Design's success? I mean, early on, what did you do?
Well, okay, so for the first year, I tried to, when I first started, the plan was to do some parts, but I was still thinking back in 2001, and my thought was we would do installation here. And it became very apparent very quickly that business model was not going to be viable. I love Oklahoma, and it's not to hate on Oklahoma because I'm going to have some Oklahoma people listen to this, and they're going to call me and be mad at me for saying this, but they're very proud of their state. But it's a great state with a lot of good people. I'll plug that. But there are some deficiencies here. The state is, about 1.5 million, 2 million people for the entire state. So you've got a lot of small towns. It's a relatively blue-collar area. You don't have the excess money of like a Miami or a Houston or a New York City. So it's to be a GTR brand in Oklahoma, you'd be very dependent on outside customers coming here.
Okay.
If you look at the GTR shops the shops that do really well, they're all located in big cities.
Yes.
You got T1 in Dallas, and
Yep.
you got Boots Logic in Austin, and so et cetera. So it's hard to make it in really small towns. And it's hard to hire here. People in this industry tend to gravitate because they're young, and they want to gravitate to bigger cities. So if someone is in Seattle and you've got a job posting in Edmond, Oklahoma, there's probably not going to be a lot of people applying for the job.
Right.
Especially if they're young and single and want to find somebody. So it's hard to hire here. It's hard to find, and then if you find people here that truly are talented and they have a skill set, maybe it's fabrication or whatnot, they want to go to the oil and gas industry because they can make 6 figures.
Yeah.
So it's very difficult for our industry here to hire. So I realized that pretty quick. I probably should have known that beforehand. But I like to learn things the hard way. I have a knack for that. So, for us, it became apparent that, okay, what are the advantages of Oklahoma? Well, the advantages are relatively cheap overhead. Employment cost for non-high skill is a lot less. So you can find warehouse workers and whatnot here for pretty affordable rates compared to a big city. Also, land is plentiful, it's cheap. So rent is very inexpensive. So, when I looked at, okay, how can we make this company viable? It was really simple. Well, we need to shift gears. We're really not making any money over here in the warehouse or in the in the shop side, but we are making money over here in like e-commerce, warehousing, drop shipping. So let's shift gears. Okay, maybe we don't have all the other advantages of the big city, but what we can do is operate very, cheaply, and we can undercut competition on price because our overhead is so low.
Okay.
And so we ended up using, our advantages and played to those advantages, and it's worked well for us. But basically, if you look at the business today, our business here is, for the most part, a lot of private label parts. We work with a lot of really high quality suppliers around the world, both domestically and internationally. And then we do some also local manufacturing as well. But most of our business here is more warehousing and e-commerce related.
Gotcha. Okay. Have you ever doubted yourself? And, you did leave a fantastic paying job, even though you weren't happy doing it. But when you started Speed by Design, did it ever cross your mind that, it's very possible I could blow through all the savings? Or is there anything like that where you've doubted yourself and, what if this doesn't work? What am I going to do?
Well, I would be lying if I said I didn't. But by the same token, fear is a great motivator, right?
Yeah.
So, I will say this. When I left medicine, my wife was, I think at the time, she was about 8 months pregnant with our first child.
Mm-hmm.
And when I told her that I was going to leave medicine, let's just say there was a lot of fear at home because she had just left the hospital herself.
Okay.
She works in ultrasound.
Okay.
And so she had left her job to be home for the last month or two of the pregnancy at home. So she had quit her job. And then now I'm telling her that I'm going to quit my very mid-high six-figure job to come sell car parts is literally how it was perceived.
Yes.
And so let's just say there was tension at home. And my own family and friends and a lot of other people were not positive.
Okay.
There was a lot of negativity regarding the decision. It was not looked at favorably. And at the time, a lot of people thought I was nuts to do that to my wife.
Sure.
So just for me to say there would not be some doubt would be a lie. But let me say this. I believe in myself. I know that I'm not going to let myself starve. I'm not going to let my family, I'm not going to let my kids starve. So I knew that I've done it before. I know what it takes to be successful. I know what it takes to grow the medical business. I grew that from scratch into a multi-million-dollar, basically distributorship.
Mm-hmm.
So I know what it takes to do it. To me, the principles are there: time management, territory management. There's certain skill sets that I had learned and grown, and I felt like mastered. And for me, in my mind, I was just shipping products.
Okay. But
those skill sets would transfer.
Sure.
And to an extent, they did. Even now, I have doubts now. I went and bought. My wife got a good laugh out of it, but so did some friends. But I bought a Chevrolet Bolt, an electric car, back in May, and I bought it because it was cheap and it was cheaper than a Tesla. And everybody's like, why are you buying this car? And it's like, well, I want to understand electric cars because to me, that's the future of the industry. And there's a lot of people that thought I was nuts. And I bought that out of fear. That's why I bought it, because I'm looking at my business now and I'm going, well, will we still be doing GTRs in 10, 15 years? What will the industry look like? Will everything go electric? I have fears, but by the same token, I'm a really hardcore numbers guy. And there's so many times if you come here, you'll laugh. I have a spreadsheet for everything.
Okay.
I think I might be my CPA's favorite client because I'm like him. Because I love my numbers. But, anytime I start to self-doubt our business or trajectory or growth, I always go back to the spreadsheets. And there's a lot of times where I'll have a week or even a month where it feels slow. I feel like I'm not being as productive as I could be. And I start to worry that maybe I'm missing something or maybe business is going elsewhere. But then I'll go back to the numbers, look at the numbers, and it's like, we're doing fine this month, So for me, numbers are a big thing. Spreadsheets are a big thing. It's how I remove some self-doubt. I always like to know where I stand. And you don't know that if you don't have data.
Okay. So what's the worst experience you've had in business?
The first experience. So I didn't tell you guys this part, but I think you'll find this interesting. So I've left. So let's just put this all into perspective. I have left this job in medicine. I have a wife that's literally fixing the pot with our first child. I started, and I'm going to share some words of wisdom. I learned these lessons the hard way, but the very first entry back into automotive, I decided that we were going to launch a bolt-on line for GTR. We were going to do some exhaust and downpipes and intakes. So I had never manufactured overseas. Okay, let me preface that. I'm much better today than I was 8 years ago. Night and day improvement. And I'll explain maybe a little bit later in the podcast how that's happened. But my very first experience was I had never been to Asia, didn't know how to get started. I went on Alibaba, like a lot of people, and I found a variety of exhaust systems and intakes that were being offered. And I ordered some samples. I think it was from maybe 5 or 6 companies. This was 2011, 2012. Samples came in. I found one particular supplier that everything looked really good. Okay. Everything fit nice. Everything looked good. I had a GTR at the time. So I placed an order. The order was about $25,000 from what I remember. It was just maybe a little over 25.
Okay, so a whole bunch of this exhaust or whatever it was, right?
A whole bunch.
Okay.
A whole bunch.
Sure.
I mean, and I bought basically like a container.
Okay.
It was my opening order. And it was 25 grand. And literally the container comes in like maybe 3 or 4 months later. And this is literally our opening order to like start the business, to start brand, the Speed by Design brand. And immediately, within days, weeks, I realized that we've got problems with fitment.
Okay.
There's like probably half the container, there's fitment problems.
Okay. So very inconsistent manufacturing then.
So very inconsistent. So the samples, the production looked nothing like the samples. Okay. It was clearly a different factory. So I contact the company and no response. I later find out that it was just some broker selling on Alibaba who basically went to a good factory in China where the quality was better and got a production type piece, sent it to me to look at. But then when he went to manufacture the order, he farmed it somewhere much cheaper. We could make a better margin.
Gotcha.
Now, this entire time, my assumption is this is a manufacturer. He has represented himself as a manufacturer. But I never went there. I never met this guy. There's no relationship. I didn't validate the factory. I did this purely based on how I would want to be treated. I put a lot of faith in this individual. We ended up scrapping, when it was all said and done, we scrapped effectively that entire container for about $450 at a metal scrapyard.
Great start to the new business, huh?
So let me tell you something. My wife by this point is beside herself. Like we're talking 90 days into this business, and my wife is like, "You do not know what you're doing. You are not cut out for this. We need to just ride this 2 years out, and then you go back into medicine." She was not about the life. This was there was no faith in me at this point. So our first experience was a very negative one. The worst part is, my assumption was that the fitment was going to be like the production. So, I had sold in the first few weeks a lot of this product. And while some of it fit, there was no complaints, there was product that didn't fit. So now I'm having to deal with Egg on Face as a brand new brand online.
Yeah.
But I learned very quickly that, and it was coincidental because it was I remember it was in the spring. And, I realized, I remember telling Angela, I said, look, she's like, what's the lesson that you learned? I said, well, the lesson I learned is I didn't go. She was like, what are you talking about? And I said, well, look, I got to go there. She was like, you're going to go to Asia? I'm like, yeah, I'm going to get on a plane and go. And she's like, Chris, you don't speak Chinese. You don't speak Mandarin. She's like, how are you going to get around? I was like, I don't know, but I'm going to figure it out. And I did. And I found out there was a trade show in April called AMPA. It's in Taiwan. It's a big, it's like SEMA, but for Taiwan. And I said, I'm just going to go and I'm just going to walk around. And I did. And I can remember it was the most like awkward flight. I was the only white guy on the flight. I didn't speak the language. The food was very different. And I can remember, I just remember how awkward it felt. But then when I got there and I met the people and how warm they are and how welcoming and, trying to communicate with me the best they could. I can remember going to the trade show and just feeling relief because I could finally meet people, put a face with a name, verify that they were real companies, and I could, form some relationships. And so at that point, I started going back to Taiwan quite a bit. Taiwan kind of became a home away from home. And even now, I still go as much as I possibly can. It's harder now with kids, but I still try to go at least once a year. So my advice for companies that want to go abroad and they want to manufacture abroad would be to go there. You are playing Russian roulette. I mean, it's a suicide mission to try to do business from your home state. If you've never been there and you've never met the people that you're wiring tons of money to, you don't really know who you're dealing with, and people can put on a front. So
yeah.
My advice for companies that want to move business abroad, there's good products. Look, man. Here's the deal. People will always say, I can't believe you manufacture in China or you manufacture in Taiwan. I'm like, dude, there's crap right here. You can find crappy suppliers. You can find crappy weld quality in Oklahoma.
Right.
You don't have to leave your state to find crap. So, that's a racist way of looking at things. There is quality in every single country around the world, everywhere. From third world all the way to, you can find quality. There's always going to be someone. You just have to hunt and you got to form relationships and you have to go. And so for those companies, that are stateside that are wanting to go abroad, and I get a lot of people that will contact me because they know I've never hid the fact. I tell consumers where we make our stuff. I have never hidden it because I'm not ashamed of it. I have very good friendships. I have people that I trust in Taiwan and in China and in Thailand and in the UK and in Australia and other countries in Canada. There's great quality and there's great people everywhere. You just have to get out of your box and go meet them. And I think that's kind of the main takeaway for companies that want to go abroad is just to go. And I think a great place to start is automotive trade shows. That's the best place because you can see a lot of people at one time and you can go from booth to booth. So you can get a really good comparison of quality between multiple companies at the same time. So that would be some advice, would be, trade shows would be the best place to start for companies that want to go abroad for manufacturing.
So that's really interesting. It actually echoes. So one of our most popular episodes was with David Shue from Skunk 2.
Mm-hmm.
And his story echoes yours a lot, I think. And he's not ashamed to say that a lot of his or all his manufacturing is in China or in Asia. I'm not sure exactly where it all is now, but he said the same thing. Going over there and knowing the people, and that makes a big difference. And for people who are wanting to hear what David said, I mean, listen to the podcast. It's a two-parter, but yeah, it's very similar. Like you can get crap if you don't pay attention. And I think even like our 4 episodes ago, we talked to Alejandro, who said he bought some wheels that were really not as advertised. And it's the same thing here. Like just you say, installers can do a terrible job of putting the parts on. And that's local. That's the guy installing your car. You need to go to the shop and see what they're all about and, see the cars they've built and that sort of thing. And that's just part of doing business. So
it's part of doing business. I will say as a disclaimer that we do prefer to do business in Taiwan. We don't do very much in China. I try to stay out of China. And I don't say that as a knock to the Chinese, but business is done very differently in that country than it is in Taiwan. And a lot of Americans, especially white Americans, we assume that the two countries are the same. I hear that a lot. To them, it's all China. It's not. I've been to both. I can tell you it's not. Taiwan is a lot like the U.S. It feels a lot like the U.S. They respect IP, unlike China. And I find that the way that they do business is very Americanized. I prefer to do business in Taiwan. I think the quality control is light years as a whole better than China. So I do if we do foreign manufacturing, we do almost everything in Taiwan I've never been burned. I mean, 7 years now that we've manufactured products in Taiwan, I've not been burned one time. China is, man, it's a real gamble. I would strongly advise not doing any business in China until you've physically been there. You might gamble a little bit in Taiwan. It's a much safer place to do business, but China, you would definitely want to go there. But as a whole, we do most of our Asian manufacturing in Taiwan because I find that the quality control, the manufacturing quality is significantly better.
Awesome. Yeah, and I don't, I don't deal a whole lot with that stuff, but I do know that my top of the line racing mountain bike, it's a carbon frame, and that is manufactured in Taiwan because.
What if I told you I've been to that factory?
That would be awesome. So it's a specialized mountain bike, and they are not afraid to say that it's made in Taiwan either, because apparently all major mountain bike manufacturers making carbon bikes do it all in Taiwan because they're carbon. They don't call them factories. They call them. It's a layup. What do they call them? I don't know. They had a name for the people that do that. But yeah, it's all there. So if you've been to the factory, that'd be awesome.
I've been to the factory. I know the company well, and we actually have used them. They do some carbon fiber, or they have done carbon fiber exhaust tips for us.
Okay.
In recent years.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Okay, so what's something that you're doing right now that has you fired up?
I guess it's been 6 years ago. At the time, we were on GTR Life, and this is going to be a GTR specific discussion, but it can apply to everybody. 6 years ago, Facebook groups were not as popular probably as they are today. At the time, most of the business, at least from 2012 to 2014, was driven through forums, internet chat forums. And at the time, it was GTR Life. That was the big one for the GTR community. And we were definitely one of the first to start a Facebook group. And I can remember I was made fun of, oh man, every competitor, and oh, Chris has got this little Facebook group. And I can remember just being trolled online because, forums were where it was, at least in this community. So I started this Facebook group 6 or 7 years ago. And I started it with I added 100 to 200 of our direct customers. And it was really just a way for us to communicate directly with our customers and to get new product information out quickly to kind of a direct focus group of people that would be willing to buy our products. And it grew and it grew and it grew. And in 2000, it was either 2014 or 2015, that group alone did over $1 million in growth in sales revenue for our company. And today we've grown that group from zero to, I think we're fixing to pass 9,000, and I hope to be at over 10,000 members before the end of the year. And that Facebook group now is the largest Facebook group in the world for GTR, both owners and enthusiasts. And it does millions of dollars a year in revenue.
Fantastic.
So, yeah. So Facebook has been really maybe our biggest success. And it drives a lot of our revenue, and it's a great place to get information for us. I mean, I love to get in there and engage, our consumer base and pick their brain. What do you want? It's not just me as a manufacturer bringing products to you. It's,
sure.
What do you want? And I use that group of, almost 9,000 people as a focus group. And it has allowed us to, launch a lot of new products off of ideas that, to be honest with you, I would have never even thought of. And so Facebook for us is probably what I'm most excited about. And now every platform that we're in, we have a Facebook group.
Okay.
Our FT86, which is FRS BRZ platform for Subaru, we've got 3,500, members in it.
Uh-huh.
And we've sold several thousand of those turbo kits over the past 5-6 years.
Wow.
So Facebook for us versus other forms of social media has been significantly by far the best.
Yeah. And we have not done a whole lot with anything other than Facebook as well, but Facebook is obviously the word of mouth for myself at my shop as well. It's, I don't have to do hardly any advertising or really none. It's just being active in the groups and helping people when they need it. It seems to make all the difference.
Well, it does. And I think what's cool about Facebook is it allows people to also click on your personal profile.
Yeah,
learn more
see
about
a real
you.
person. Uh-huh.
You're real. It humanizes you. Um, and it also allows you to be seen as someone who's engaging the community because you are. And, obviously people are drawn to buy from people that they know. We buy from who we like, right?
Yep.
We go to restaurants because maybe sometimes we have a friend at the bar or we have a waitress that we like to talk to or for whatever reason it is. But there are people that we choose to spend our money with people that we like.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that Facebook has really, allowed us to develop some personal relationships with people. I think it's great. It's been a great marketing tool for us. And it's allowed us to, connect with those potential buyers.
Fantastic. So let's take a pause for a second and I'll hear from our sponsor. We all know owning a shop is difficult, so we created My Shop Assist to help you manage the various jobs. Whether you run a machine shop, a performance tuning shop, build off-road trucks, or even do powder coating, My Shop Assist can help you. It is completely online and will help you schedule the jobs, log time on each task, track parts orders, and take pictures of the work. You can even export your jobs from My Shop Assist into QuickBooks as invoices. So if you're interested to improve operations at your shop, check out myshopassist.com to start your 30-day free trial. Okay, Chris, we're back and we want to talk about the business itself as it currently sits. So Speed by Design, you said primarily warehousing where you're at right now. So how big is the facility you're using?
So we have we're in the middle of, that's a good question. So right now we have 2 buildings that are about 2,500 square feet apiece. There's a reason for that. We moved to Edmond, Oklahoma from Tuttle, Oklahoma about a little over a year ago. And when we moved to the town that we're in, we wanted to be close by. We wanted the warehouse to be close to our house. And there's really only one little industrial park. So they had a 2,500 square foot spot, which was not big enough for us. So we still have our old building in Tuttle, which is about 45 minutes away. And then we have our building here, but we are fixing to build.
Okay.
So we're fixing to build, hopefully by the end of the year. Our lease is up at the end of the year here. Hopefully by the end of the year, we're going to be in a new building and everything will be all in one.
And so I'm guessing the 2 that you have right now, you're renting both of those.
Renting both. Yep, renting both.
Okay. As far as the business goes, have you ever written a formal business plan or at least goals that you try to keep to?
Yeah, it's kind of funny you ask because I was just having this conversation with another young kind of up and coming business owner that I think is going to do very, very well in the industry. I'm excited about him, but and I was kind of giving him some words of advice and some things I had learned. And one of my key tips would be, and I learned this a long time ago, a very successful business guy that I knew said, look, Chris, there's only 2 people. Well, I won't say there's only 2 people. There's 2 people that's very important for you to befriend. One is you need a good CPA and you need a good banker. Well, I've got a good CPA and I've got a very good banker. And so for me, my advice would be if you're a young business just starting out, stay away from a big national bank chain. Stay away from the Chase banks and the Bank of Americas and things like that. Really, they're not an ideal fit. You need to be dealing with a small, local, small town banker that wants to invest in the local market and is a good fit for smaller companies. And while I don't necessarily say I've written a business plan per se, I will simply say that I have a very strong relationship with my banker. I go to lunch with my banker at least once a month. I go to church with him. He's on my Facebook feed. He's in all of my Facebook groups. He likes to call me and tell me, hey, I saw you just launched this new product. So he sees what we're doing. And there's a reason for that. And there's a reason I want him in those Facebook groups. This is a guy that I'm asking to loan me money. I want him to know everything about my business. And I want him to loan money feeling very confident that my business is viable and it's going to be here in years to come. Because if he sees it that way, he's going to loan me money. And you got to have money to get big. So especially when you're starting out and money is tight. And then as you look to expand down the road, you're going to need even more money for growth. And for us, it's been lines of credit. It's been a key part of how we've grown our business. But I will tell you, the first few years of the business, I was with Chase Bank. And I was really self-funding the business. I didn't have any kind of credit at the time. There wasn't really a need for it. The business was a lot smaller, maybe $1 million business, $2 million business. So I was able to self-fund it. Now it's a very different animal. And with our growth, I've had to take lines of credit to keep our inventory and our growth, on pace. And it forced me to go to a small bank, and I should have done that from the beginning. And I didn't see the value in it until later on in business when my accountant said, "Look, man, Chase Bank's killing you. They're literally killing you. They're never gonna loan you the kind of money that you need. They're not gonna be the ally that you need. They're really too big for you for your size of company." And so we moved to a small bank here in Oklahoma, and it has been a night and day improvement. And now I have a banker that knows me on a first name basis, knows my family, knows my wife, knows everything about my business. I'm very open with him every month. Good months, bad months. I tell him everything. He's seen it all. But I have that relationship with a local banker, and that has been a key part of driving my revenue, has been to have financial backing to not only manufacture new products, but also inventory new products that we're not running out of stock.
So does that banker hold you to any revenue targets? Do you have your own revenue targets? Is that what you're?
Let's just say that I am very type A, and I'm probably more aggressive than my banker is, surprisingly.
Okay.
My own goals are probably larger than his goals for me.
Okay.
But yeah, and I'm open with him. I mean, I've made very good friends. It's really two bankers. It's a president and a VP and a president of the bank. And I'm good buddies with both of them, and I'm very open with them. I mean, it's important to not just share. You don't just want to share the pros. When certain products are not hitting or they're not doing, I'm open with these guys. I tell them all of it, because that's what makes a relationship. Like, I don't want to just go to him every single time things are rosy. I want to look like a legitimate business, and there's going to be pros and cons, goods and bad in business. And so for me, I'm very open with them. I'm very transparent. I think that's the best way to be. I don't just go to them when things are good. I'm open and honest with them, and they know what they're getting, but they also know that they can trust me. So far there has literally not been a time yet. Now, there's been some times where they've said, "Hey, okay, the plan's a little aggressive," and they'll kind of bring me back down to reality. But so far, they've trusted me. And when we've needed something genuinely, especially with lines of credit, they've always been there.
Okay.
And I think if I did not have that relationship, it would be a very different animal.
Okay. And how many employees do you have?
So I have, I've got one guy in the warehouse who I help out a lot of days. Yes, I'm willing to pack a box. I'm not as good at it as he is, though. I will say that. And then I have one sales guy. And then we have two, they're independent businesses. One is local to me, one is not. And both of those guys do prototyping work for us. Okay. And they're small businesses and good friends of mine. And they're, I guess 1099 basically would be the best way to 1099 guys. But yeah,
freelance guys, right? Uh-huh.
Yeah, they're freelance that run their own businesses, but are invested in our mutual success. And so we do a lot of prototype new product work with them. So
that is ultimately the best way to do it until you actually need a full-time person doing it for you.
Yeah, it is. And we can do that because we are manufacturing our production work overseas, but we can do our prototyping here. So the most important thing is you got to have good prototypes. If your prototypes don't fit, your production's definitely not going to fit. And overseas, especially in Taiwan, they're very, very, very good at getting the sample for the production work perfect. I mean, the fitment is perfect. They're great at.
Now, usually you're sending them a product, or are you sending them a drawing?
I am sending them a product. I have found we have tried drawings for CNC parts. Drawings are fine. If it's just CNC work, flanges or whatnot. Yeah. But if it's like full scale, like for example, an exhaust system, I would strongly not suggest sending a CAD drawing. You're much better off sending them a physical built product that they can literally jig and replicate the fitment to a T.
Gotcha.
And so that's what we're doing here. So right here in Oklahoma, actually in Edmond, Oklahoma, we do a lot of prototype work here, and then also in Seattle. I've got a guy that does a lot of aluminum type products for us, intercoolers and piping kits and things, and we do the prototyping work up there for a lot of aluminum, and then all the stainless steel type stuff is done here.
Gotcha. And how many hours a week are you working? And now that you have a family, has that? I mean, you've had a family for a while, but you said you have another baby?
I have, we got an 18-month little boy.
Okay.
We got Dylan and Caden. So, okay, I work a lot. I'm a workaholic, and I probably always will be. It's just I like to work. That's a problem for my wife. I don't know, man. I have a hard time shutting it off. I mean, my wife thinks I'm crazy. She's like, Chris, just go to bed. Like, I'll get in bed at 10 o'clock, and at 1 a.m. I'm still sending emails, and she's been asleep for 2 hours. She'll get up and use the bathroom, and she's like, you're still up? Like, I have a really hard time shutting it off. I stay up late, and I get up early. I like to work, but by the same token, a lot of my work now can be done via cell phone.
Sure.
And so
you can do it from anywhere. Yeah.
Let's just say I'm a great bass fisher, also getting a lot of work done. I can send emails and bass fish at the same time. I can multitask. So yeah, I work a lot. And I think if you're a business owner, too, I mean, you're going to work all the time.
Yep.
Customers these days, especially with social media and time changes around the world, if you're going to be an international brand, especially a parts company, you're going to work all the time. So, but by the same token, I can shut it off if I need to. And there are many times that I do. I will, shut the phone off, and if it's a recital for the kids and whatnot. So whatever's going on. So, yeah, I mean, I can pick and choose how I spend my time, but by the same token, I'm not going to say that I don't work, because I do. I put a lot of hours in.
Okay. And does the pay justify the time spent?
Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely. I've done very well. I'll leave it at that. I don't think numbers matter, but life is very good here. And it wasn't that way, day one, but 8 years later, life is very good. And I love what I do, man. And I think that's the thing for me. It's like, in a lot of ways, I'm just as passionate about GTR in particular as my love. It's my baby. I've always been a Nissan guy. So, yeah, I think it definitely justifies it. I'm doing something that I love to do. I would do it for a lot less money. That the money aspect of the business, I can honest to God say, is not my motivator. I think that's probably why this business has been successful, to be honest with you, because I'm not trying to price gouge. I don't charge the GTR tax. I'm happy making less, and it might sound crazy, but I'm happy with volume. From my standpoint, sure. I don't feel like I have to make this massive profit margin. I want a lot of customers. I don't want just a small sliver. I don't know. I love what I do, and I think it shows, and I think it's infectious, and I think that's why that group has grown in size. I mean, I'm in that group. I'm in that group all day long on Facebook, and GTR in particular. I'm very active in there, and it's because I love it, man. I love engaging people. I love hearing about their cars. I love hearing about their goals. I love hearing about who they beat on Saturday night.
Right.
I can't necessarily do it anymore. There's liability, but I like to hear about what my customers are doing. It's great because, I was telling a friend of mine, he was asking about our customer base. It's, people call, I'm like Santa Claus, man. I'm Santa, they're happy when they call me, because this is what we do, is taking their mind off of their day job that they probably hate. Their time is like the best thing in their day, right? We're car guys, and they get away from the wife and they get away from the kids on Saturday, and they get to go take XYZ car out and drive it, and it's like it's their passion. And when you're able to sell to someone's passion, it's a beautiful thing, because most of the phone calls I get, guys are happy to call me. We're reducing their stress load, if that makes sense.
Your customer is you from 15 years ago, right?
Yeah. It's like I dreamed of being me, 15 years ago when I was in medicine. I used to look at, our competitors and think, man, it must be nice, and to be in that role now, and to know that, you're basically your Santa Claus, and you're delivering presents, it's a great feeling, and when customers call, they're happy. So yeah, I think I'm living a dream job.
What are the primary tools you're using to manage the business? Sounds like you like to use Excel a lot, but interacting back and forth with Taiwan or your other suppliers, what tools are you using for that?
I'm a Facebook Messenger guy. I mean, Taiwan, unlike China, it's a democratic, country. So it's nothing censored over there. So, Facebook honestly is how I communicate with a lot of our suppliers.
Interesting. Okay. So your suppliers use Facebook Messenger over in Taiwan, huh?
Oh yeah. Facebook's huge. Taiwan.
Awesome.
I'm telling you, man, it would blow most white Caucasians' mind. Like, it's just like the States. It's so much like the U.S.
Okay.
In the way that they do business. And yeah, I mean, I love it. I mean, all of my suppliers are on my Facebook page, and it's fun because when they call me, it's like, yeah, I saw that, Caden just did this, or I saw Dylan just did this, because they're following me, and I think that's what has made, at least, I think it's why I prefer to do business in Taiwan, honestly. It's because I follow them. I see their kid. Like, there's a relationship there. It's not just business, man. I mean, like, there has been times in my business, I can think of one time in particular. There is a very well-known company in our industry, very well-known and very well-respected. Everybody assumes they make everything in the U.S. I see it because I read the threads. And I will tell you that they do a lot of business with a mutual supplier of mine in Taiwan. That will probably never be made public, and that's just fine. There was a situation about 3 years ago where this company, which is significantly larger than my company, I would guess, wanted to buy a product that we were already selling into the U.S. Okay, the owner of the company, who's a good friend of mine, we talk at least once a day, and someone that I see at least once or twice a year, contacted me and said, "Here's what's happened. They've contacted us. They want to buy this product." And I said, "Look, man, we're friends. It's business. They can do a lot more volume than we can do. And you know what? I appreciate you calling and giving me a heads up. It's all good. If you feel like you need to give this product to them, that's fine. It's not going to hurt my feelings. I don't necessarily like it, but if it's better for you and your business and your family, do what you need to do." And he goes, "Chris, that's actually not why I'm calling you." I said, "Okay." I said, "Well, what's going on?" He goes, "Well, I just wanted you to know that they had contacted me about this. I'm not going to give them the product. That is your product." And I said, "But why? Why would you do that? This could potentially cost you, six figures a year in revenue on this one product." And he goes, "Chris," he's like, "we're family, man." He's like, honest to God, he's like, "You've been doing business with me for probably 5-6 years." He's like, "They've been doing business with me for probably 15 years. He said, "But Chris, they have never come." He goes, "I've never met the owner of that business. Not one time. He's never come here. He's never shook my hand." He goes, "He's just a wire transfer." He goes, "I know you, man." He's like, "I know I'm going to see you at Christmas. I'm probably going to see you at something." He's like, "You're a friend. Why would I screw you?" And I was dumbfounded by that, because I think if that was China, that would have been long gone. Like, that product would be here under another brand right now. But because of the relationship, because of the Facebook connection, the trips over there, I'm a real human being to him. And it wasn't just about money. There was a relationship there. And friends take care of friends. And that was really communicated to me. And that has made it, now well, for me, it's showed me how important it is to continue making these trips over and to maintain these, personal relationships with these people. But yeah, it blew my mind. It blew my mind. So
it sounds like you travel back and forth quite a bit then.
I do, man. I love to go over. I'm a huge fan of Taiwan. I get made fun of all the time. My competitors love to point the finger and, "Oh, they sell Chinese parts." Even though, by the way, most of my competitors also make in Taiwan if you pull their customs records. But they like to deny it. But I don't hide it, man. I've got great friends over there. I mean, these are friendships. These people have been good to me. They've been good to my family. I'm not going to hide that. I'm not going to try to deny that. I wasn't raised that way. I'm not a racist kind of person. I've got friends of all colors, backgrounds, religions, sexual preference. I don't care. If you treat me kindly, if you do right by me, I'm going to do right by you. I don't care your nationality. It doesn't matter.
Awesome. And I was perusing your site to see what products you're selling, because I knew you did GTR stuff, but I saw some other. I mean, there was like the Mustang and the Focus, but most of what you sell is your product, but your primary product is turbo kits, right?
Yeah, turbo products. Yeah, everything regarding turbocharged engines, basically, and GTR is really kind of how we were started. So it's what we're best known for. But we're probably the largest supplier of turbo kits for FRS BRZ in North America. I mean, we do hundreds and hundreds a year.
So break down what your products versus like selling other people's parts. So like, do you try to sell like access ports with your turbo kits and that sort of stuff, or is it primarily just moving your product and that's the main focus?
No, I mean, I think most consumers that are calling up are wanting a turnkey solution. So, we sell a lot of software. For up until I think maybe this past year, we were the largest seller of Cobb access ports for GTR globally. And then I know for the past year or two, I think we're number one right now globally for GTR for Ecutech, another software company. They're both now owned by the same parent company. So we sell a lot of software to support, both our bolt-on parts and our turbo kit. So we do the same thing. We use Ecutech for FRS PRZ. We use Cobb for all the Ford product line. So yeah, we sell a lot of software. We sell a lot of fuel components. We use a lot of AEM fuel pumps. I sell a ridiculous amount of AEM fuel pumps, and we sell a lot of fuel injectors too. So we do use other people's products, but when we're using other people's products, it's really to be able to install ours.
Sure.
So it's kind of a comprehensive. It's more packages, if that makes sense.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's always the thing that I tell install shops is focus on doing packages and not every single little random part that mix and match you can find to put together a car, because it makes it 10 times harder to install it.
It does, and it's funny. I got a laugh out of this. A few years ago, you're going to get haters if you grow your business to any kind of. If you're LeBron James, people hate on LeBron James. I read the ESPN comments, and I just laugh. You know what I mean? If you get big enough, I don't care who you are, you're going to have haters. You're going to have some trolls online. But it's funny. I had a person literally say they're the slowest GTR shop. We're not a shop, by the way, but they said we're the slowest GTR shop in North America, and I'm like, I'm fine with that. That's fine by me. Like, you're never going to get the limelight being a full bolt-on parts manufacturer. You know what I mean?
Right.
We're not a shop. We're not building 3,500 horsepower GTRs. It's not market. That's not our business. But I'm very happy to take 95% of the bolt-on market. So, for me, we haven't necessarily got a lot of limelight for like our racing, accolades, but we have done very well in the bolt-on side, and that's really our focus. I don't want to be the 1% company. That's cool. Like, be that guy. Every platform has to have that shop that leads the way. I respect that, 100%. My interest is more in the parts manufacturing side, so I'm much more interested in the bolt-on stuff, which is more mainstream, everyday type of product line.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's a good point. Like Tony Palo's T1 shop. Terrence is a mechanic there, and I've talked to him several times on it.
Yeah.
Most of the cars coming in there are exactly what you said. They're like 2,000 horsepower drag cars, and they're all just absolutely amazing cars.
Yeah.
Built to the hilt. Every single part on there has some attention to detail on it. They're not just slapping an intercooler pipe on it and sending it on its way. And that's a fantastic market to be in, but it's also a very hard one to get into. You have to spend a ton of time and money building your own car, getting cars that are known to be the fastest car, and then when you get there, you have to everything you possibly can to make sure that the quality keeps it to the market you're selling to, essentially, right?
I mean, Tony Apollo to me is an innovator, a leader. I respect the guy. I mean, you can't. How can you not respect the guy? He's done so much for the industry. Especially on the racing side of the business. But, if you ever sit down and talk with him, he'll tell you, like T1 is my passion because I'm a gearhead. But I make my money with ID. Right. I make my money in injectors. And so I think that's kind of the nature of the business. I mean, the race cars get all the, they get all the attention and they get the high fives, but really at the end of the day, it's the lowly part sales is really where the money is, the bolt-on type stuff that everybody needs,
Okay, Chris, what is something you're planning for this year? So like your 1-year plan with the business.
1-year plan. Well, my plan is to go sevens. It's not really necessarily a business thing, but my personal plan, I got a 799 goal. The car is like, I have a bracket car. I have an 8.0 bracket car that just will not go 799. So my goal this year, if I can get a 7, that's a win for me. Business-wise, we're in some aging markets, and GTR's been around for a long time, man. I mean, the car's been
Yeah.
out since '08. You know, it's like how much. One dealer called me and goes, "Chris, how much longer can you milk this cow?" And I kind of laughed about it. You know, and it was like, yeah, you're right. You know, we've been doing it for a while. So for me, you know, we're going to do some new stuff this year. We just purchased a McLaren 570S. We are going to get into the McLaren parts market. We're looking at some other platforms. And so for us, I think our best shot at growth is probably not more products for what are aging markets, but new platforms. So
Okay.
you know, I won't give you all my tricks, but we are, you know, McLaren is one that, you know, we are definitely looking at doing some parts for.
Yeah, that's at least with my Facebook community of people that I'm friends with, you know, mostly shop owners and stuff. It seems to be like a very, I mean, it's an amazing car first of all, but it seems to be a very tuner friendly car
It's
too. Like
very
people are able to actually do stuff with it.
Yeah, and it's a small aftermarket. There's a lot of potential in it. You know, I think most of our GTR competitors have moved to like Lamborghini. A lot of them are doing, you know, the Audi R8 and Huracan, and I think the
Yeah.
market is great. But by the same token, boy, Underground Racing, they've done a pretty good job.
Right.
All the competitors, so it's like I don't know if I want to go against Kevin. But you know, I think McLaren's got some opportunity. It's definitely a smaller aftermarket than Audi and Lamborghini, but I think there's some potential there. And so that's one that we definitely have our eye on. And I think German cars are kind of where I'm looking. I won't specifically say what all cars, but I think our future's probably German.
Okay. And do you have a 5-year plan? Like a more long-term goal. I mean, it sounds like you're wanting to build a building as well, right? But
we've got you know, obviously, hopefully before the end of the year we'll have the new building built. You know, my 5-year plan is I'm getting more gray hair by the day. My wife used to count. You know, maybe 3 or 4 years ago, she'd count my gray hair. She thought it was cute. She's quit counting. There's a lot of gray there. So, you know, my 5-year goal. It's hard to say. You know, I would like to think that I'm still in the industry. I haven't sold the business. I can't think of anything else I'd want to do. You know, I've had a few people ask, you know, would you sell it? If you would, what would you do next? And I'm like, I don't know that I would. Like, I love what I do. You know, like I said, money is really not my main motivator for me. My kids by that point will be older. They'll be more active. You know, my top priority next 5 years is efficiency, just improving my efficiency to provide more personal time. I have kind of a certain number that, you know, allows us to live a very comfortable lifestyle here. I don't need to make 3 or 4 times that. I am very, I don't know. I mean, I don't know if that should sound bad. I don't know. I'm content, man. I mean, life is good. And for me, I don't necessarily know that I want to be exponentially larger than we are right now. I like where we're at. I think my main goal is just maintaining that and not losing that, because that can go quickly, you know?
Right. You keep growing. You grow you grow the problems as you grow the business too, right?
Well, yeah. You know, I had lunch with a competitor who I respect, someone I really respect, and you know, we had lunch. We had a sandwich together. We sat down, and he said, "Chris," he's like, and he was telling me about their revenue, and their revenue was probably maybe 2 to 3 times our size. They've got about 30 employees, and he, you know, and he was listening to me talk, and I'm listening to him talk, and we're comparing problems. And then we started to compare, you know, just income, you know, profit. And he was like, man, he was like, I'm really not making that much more money than you. He's like, but I have so many more headaches because I have so many more employees, you know? And he's like, you know, Chris, he's like, I think you should just keep doing what you're doing. And we kind of laughed about it. And so you're right. You know, I've thought about that many times. Do I want those headaches? And, you know, man, I don't, you know, I'm a family guy, and I love the outdoors. I love the camp. I love to fish. So for me, it's like, you know, we need to make money. We need to pay our bills, but that's really all we need. You know, I still want to have a personal life. I still want to be a family guy. My father was not around for my family much growing up. He was very successful. He was an executive. Did very, very, very well for himself, provided financially very well for my family. Zero resentment there, but he did not make much. You know, I think in my entire life, He made maybe a half dozen sports games, like 2 or 3.
Okay.
I don't want that for my boys. I don't ever want money to come between me and my family. Like money is great, but money is not everything. And I still want to have that family time, that family identity. That's so important to me. So for me, I think where we're at now, honestly, is pretty good. My 5-year plan is to maintain what we have. And honestly, just to continue taking care of our customers. And I mean, I think if you're taking care of customers, you're going to grow. I mean, most of our business has been pretty organic because guys have sold cars, bought more cars. They had a good experience with us and they came back to us.
Excellent. All right, so let's go some quick answer questions here. Tell us like a game-changing product you've seen in the last year.
Well, game-changing, this is going to be interesting, but the GTR until 2018 did not have Apple CarPlay. So all the 09 to 17 cars, the technology radio-wise, multimedia,
super old.
super old. And so we worked with a company overseas to develop a Apple CarPlay integration for the factory radio that reuses the factory MFD and screen. And it's a beautiful thing, man. I mean, now you can buy a 2009, you spend $650 and you have full touchscreen Apple CarPlay, Android Auto, wireless Apple CarPlay integration. And we've basically taken a car that some people had moved on from because it felt like the tech package of the car was so outdated. And we've really breathed new life back into the car. And we've modernized the car. So that's been kind of a revolutionary product for this platform, really the past 6 months that it's launched. So we're pretty excited about that, and the sales have been very strong.
And that's one of those things that like a shop that's just focused on horsepower is not going to care about. And I mean, every single car out there could benefit from that as far as like drivability goes.
Absolutely. And the cool thing about adding this integration is that we can add apps. It runs off of Android, coincidentally, in the background. So the sky is the limit in terms of future integration, and it runs over CAN bus. So like, it will be very interesting. You talk about my 5-year plan. It's going to be very interesting to see what we can do with the GTR in 5 years, just the multimedia system.
Okay. And do you have like any software or apps you're using daily? So you said Facebook already. Anything else?
Yeah. So in your group, coincidentally, a few weeks ago, I saw a thread about PayPal. And let me tell you, people were hammering PayPal. Well, let me tell you something. We run millions of dollars a year through PayPal, and PayPal has been probably the best business partner that we have had. I like PayPal. I like our rep. We've never been screwed over by them. We've been with them now for 18 years. I've had my account for 18 years since Underground Motorsports. I love PayPal, man. I love to talk to customers. I always immediately will send them a quote and get something into their hands to take a look at. PayPal has been great for us, man. So I would say, software-wise, I may be the only one in your group. I'm a PayPal app. They've never screwed me, and I stand by them. So that would be
okay. Yes. So in this topic here, PayPal is a very divided opinion of that one. So there are several people that swear by it.
Yeah.
And there are several people, and primarily the people that hate it are the people that have been screwed by it.
Right.
And so it's just one of those things that like if you haven't been screwed, it's still a great thing. So I use PayPal here and there. I mean, it's definitely not my primary source of payment processing.
Uh-huh.
But I do use it, and I have not ever had a problem with it. So it's worked for me. It's not something I focus on because the fees are higher than the swipe cards I do.
Really?
But yeah, well, yeah. I mean, like I'm most of my transactions are swiped cards.
Okay.
Okay. So I get the lowest rate on them typically.
Yeah, we have, being a .com company, our rates are good, man. I mean, I'm in the low 2s, but we're also doing, several $100,000 a month, and we're getting volume discounts. So PayPal's been good for us, and the fees, there's no contract, it's month to month. 18 years, 19 years later now, they've still been great. So I think probably it's business dependent, honestly, on your business model. We've had good luck with them. I'll tell you what I've had great luck with, and I would strongly advise everyone to do it, is Affirm. Have you added Affirm?
No, you mean the like financing your parts thing?
And
yeah.
Let me tell you something. We grew our revenue last year at 12% on just Affirm.
Okay.
So
Yeah, that's actually not a bad idea because I have the problem of expensive repairs.
yeah,
Like if an Evo needs a new engine, it can be 10 grand or 12 grand or whatever. And most of the people that are buying these cars, they're buying a $12,000 car and then they have a $12,000 repair on a $12,000 car.
right.
And, they want to do it. It's just, they are not financially in that ballpark. So financing that sort of stuff is probably a pretty good idea. I should probably look into that.
You definitely should. And, GTR is no different. I mean, GTR, you've got cars that are, literally 12 years old, 11 years old at this point. And, those guys are buying them today. They're buying a $40,000 2009 model. They're financing it for 6-year term. They don't have any money, and they're using financing. So Affirm has been great for us. And I've been very surprised. It was about 10% of about a 10% take rate, something like that. 10-12% of our revenue last year was just Affirm. And it's incredible because we just added it to the website. So if you're not offering some sort of financing option in this industry, you are definitely leaving money on the table.
Okay. Yeah, I'm going to look into that probably. That's a good idea. Now the way that works is you sign you have the like credit card form or whatever it is. Is it on your webpage? Is that how they do it?
So basically, it's an integration. You get set up with Affirm, you add the integration. When they go to checkout, it is just one of the payment methods they can choose from. And the brand is becoming pretty well known. So I used to have to explain it. People nowadays, they know they've heard of it, which is good. So basically it takes them to the Affirm website. It does a soft pull on their credit. And then it gives them like an immediate limit, like, here's what your limit is, just a credit card. And then it gives them 3 different payment options. It's either 3, 6, or 12 months, fixed payback. So it doesn't go beyond the 12th month. And then you set it up with your bank account so it drafts. So you choose what your payback term is, either 3, 6, or 12 months. Everything it's 100% transparent. You already know what the percentage is. You know what your monthly payment is going to be. There's no surprises, and consumers really, really like that. And I think that's why the take rate has been what it is on the product, because it is transparent. They know how much interest they're paying, and that interest payment is already calculated into their monthly payback payment.
Okay, so now the question for you is the risk any higher than doing a regular credit card? So if they do a chargeback?
There is no chargeback. You can't charge back. It's way better than PayPal. It's way better than a credit card. There's no method of chargeback for them. They would have to get with Affirm side. Okay, probably shouldn't say this, but Affirm is very pro business. Okay. And I have not had a situation yet, not one, where we've had any sort of, because they're having to provide social, like it's beyond like someone stealing a credit card number and running a PayPal transaction.
Yes, like they're doing an actual background check.
They're doing an actual background check where they have to verify their identity. Like you're dealing with a real person.
Gotcha.
The only thing I could potentially see happening would be someone saying they didn't get their stuff. We didn't get delivery of it. Our business, if you spend $50 with us, we're getting signature confirmation. That has been a big signature confirmation on everything. So if you've got a signature, there's very little recourse for the for the buyer. Affirm has been very pro business, very business friendly for us. I'm telling you, if you're not using Affirm, you are leaving money on the table.
And they're assuming the risk on that if they're financing it then.
Yeah, they're taking 100% of the risk. I've not had a single chargeback. I've had literally 0 issues, and we've been with Affirm now about almost 2 years, I think. 18 months, something like that. Yeah.
Cool. And you said you're driving yourself a McLaren, right?
Yeah, bought me a lowly. I'm too poor to afford the 720, but I got the peasant version now. I bought a 570S, and I bought it because I think that particular model is very bolt-on friendly. There is port injection available for it, so the sky is the limit. 720S has got some fueling limitations as you go to make bigger power. And so I think the 570S, which is still in production, has real potential to eventually, with turbo upgrades, be a pretty big tuner platform.
Cool. And what do you think the future of automotive performance is?
Well, depends on who you talk to. Okay, so remember earlier in the podcast, I told you I bought this Chevrolet Bolt, right? It's because I was too cheap to buy a Tesla. So I bought the Bolt. And here's the scary part. I really like that car. My wife thinks I look cheesy driving it. But I love the car. It handles amazing. The torque is incredible being electric. Like there's very little downside to the car if you're just daily driving in town. The problem with it, and the reason that we bought it was, I told my wife, she's like, Chris, we already have like 9, like fleet cars for the company. Every platform we're in, we've got a car. She's like, we do not need another car. Please, God, not another car. And I was like, Angela, but we need to buy one electric car. I want to understand it. I've never owned one. I know that's the future of it's where the cars are heading. I mean, and once you own one, you'll get it. Literally the first day you drive an electric car, a full, not a hybrid, that's a joke, a real electric car. The minute you drive one for one afternoon, you're like, I get it. Like I finally get it, right? It's awesome. Awesome. So I told my wife, I was like, I got to understand that this is the future of the car industry. Not to say that you won't be able to modify a GTR in 20 years, you will. But by that point, these cars that we're doing today are going to be old. But the future next decade is definitely electrics. And I wanted to understand where there was money to be made. So I wanted to buy this Bolt, drive it as a daily driver, and see if I could come up with some ideas. And maybe there'd be some projects that we could start to make today. Well, we're about 8 months into this experience, and still haven't really figured out anything I can make for it. There's wheels, there's suspension. That's pretty much it so far. I think my friends over at Rohana Wheels will probably be in business for a while, but I don't know how the rest of us will do. But it's like anything else. I mean, there's a lot of doom and gloom people out there that will talk negatively about the future of whatever. And by the same token, my dad's got a 1931 Ford Model A that he tinkers with, and I've got plenty of friends, that are still doing, 50s, 60s, 70s Mustangs and Vets. And look, man, I mean, the industry is not going anywhere. It's going to just continue to evolve, and there will be money to be made in electrics. To me, if you're asking what the future is, it's definitely electrics. I think they're awesome, and having owned one myself now, I finally understand what makes them awesome. But there's money to be made, and I think the tuner scene is going to be around for a long time. I'm definitely not. I'm very positive, looking forward to the future.
Yeah, and I like following the aftermarket of the electric stuff now too.
Absolutely.
That's fun. There's some really cool stuff.
Yeah, it's going to be like, I'm excited about it. Like I don't know. My brain's always wondering where it's going to head, but I don't know. But it is exciting, and there's a lot of opportunity in the electric side for sure.
Okay, so how do we connect with you and your company?
I give my cell phone out to every person. I have done it since 2011. I still do it today. I don't hide. They can find my cell phone number on our website. I don't hide it. They can also check us out at spdbydesign.com. They can find us on Facebook, every platform that we're in. We've got a Facebook group that we admin. I am not a hard person to find. I try to be very transparent. I like to talk to our customers. I like to hear from our dealers. I love to fly and visit dealers. I'm very approachable. So I'm happy to talk to anybody. If anybody has questions or wants to talk about CPAs or banks or electric cars, Chevy Bolts, you call me. I'm happy to talk to you.
Awesome. Well, Chris, I really appreciate you taking the time to share your story with us.
I appreciate you, man. Thanks for the opportunity, Kevin. And definitely keep us in mind in the future.
Thanks for listening to Do It for a Living. You can find out more about this guest, this show, and even details about what we just talked about at our website. Check out the Facebook page at facebook.com/doitforaliving and tell us who you want to hear from. And most importantly, subscribe to the podcast. Click subscribe. Do it now. Seriously. I'll wait while you grab your phone. Open up the podcast app, tap the subscribe button. When you subscribe, you help us gain momentum and attract more